we will share our knowledge with you. So you will have a better understanding of the language and what other domains are there that you can pursue in this language only. So you will have like you can understand what you want to do later. So this is you are in your third year, so you must have decided what domain you are going into, and if you haven't, I'm sure this session will help you. So I'll just get started. Is my screen visible? Can anybody confirm?
Yes.
Yes.
It is visible.
Okay. So I want this session to be interactive. So if you have any questions, any queries, just ask me immediately. Okay. So Python, it's a very popular language. I'm sure all of you must have heard about it. Some of you may even know about it. And I'll be covering the basics of Python in this morning session. And these are all the topics that I'll be covering. It's anywhere from it's all the way from installation to functions and other data structures. So Python is an open source interpreted and high level language. Open source as in anybody can contribute to it. It is available freely. Interpreted is that there is no any intermediate code generated. It's directly executed by an interpreter line by line. Uh, it emphasizes more on code readability because if you have anybody has seen Python syntax, you would know it is very easy to read and it's almost like a pseudocode only. Python is dynamically typed and it is garbage collected. Dynamically typed means variables in this language need not to be strictly declared. The data type for variables need not to be declared. The data type is assigned during runtime only. It was created by Guido van Rossum, and the first version was released in '91. In 2000, the second version was released, which contains some more advanced data structures, and Python 3 was released in 2008. The current version is actually 3.9.7, not 3.8.3, and even 3.10 is currently under development. So why you must learn Python? Python is extremely easy to learn. Even people who have no experience in any sort of programming prefer Python as their first language because it's extremely easy to read and to learn. And of course, that is less code. If anybody has seen comparisons of various programming languages on like posts on Instagram, like we are seeing between Java, C, C++, and Python, how to write hello world. So you must have noticed that Python always takes a less amount of lines to complete a program. And syntax is obviously very easy to read. It's very easy to read, and even the keywords are extremely easy to understand, and the meaning will just click. And of course, it's open source. And the main power of Python lies in its open source libraries. So Python has an extremely huge amount of libraries which are contributed by various third-party developers and even the Python Foundation organization themselves. And all of these help programmers so much to like develop any kind of programs and various applications. And those range all the way from data science to graphical user interface, and then even web application, web servers, and everything like that. So these are the steps for installing Python. If you want to install right now, you can do it. Otherwise, you can I'll just post the link. You can actually, I would prefer if you use this online interpreter for today because it's easier. There's no need for installation. and everything we will learn for hands-on also will everything can be done over here. So I'll just put the link in the chat. Uh, Vidhi ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I'm not able to post. I'm not able to access the chat.
Okay, just a second. Huh?
Okay. Till then, and if anybody wants to install Python, you can just go to this website python.org/downloads, and there will be an executable file for your system. If you have Mac, then there will be a different version. For Linux users, you can just type this command and you'll just get Python. And there is another third-party distribution called Anaconda. It comes bundled with lots of libraries and it's a package manager. If you want to install through Anaconda, you can do that too. But it will slightly complicate. It will be slightly complicated for beginners. So I'll suggest just download regular vanilla Python for now. And for our hands-on session today, just go to this website instead.
Radhika ma'am is changing the settings of yours, Samaksh. So far, you can send me that link and I will put it in this chat box.
Okay, ma'am. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Okay, so we can write Python programs on, or as they are usually called Python uh, scripts because they are usually used to automate processes. So we can call them scripts also. We can use any text editor or any code editor or IDE. If you have VS Code or Visual Studio Code, you can use that also. Uh, so just to print hello world, this is the line to print hello world. And if you'll notice, Python statements do not end with a semicolon, unlike C, C++, and Java, because these are Python is an interpreted language, so there is no compiler, and it does not need to know which like where the statement ends, because it considers each line as a statement it's by itself. So I've been mentioning interpreter again and again. So can anybody tell me the difference between a compiler and an interpreter? Anyone?
Compiler compiles whole the program.
Compiles into what?
And interpreter line by line. It's runs line by line.
That's okay, but like, what's the exact difference? You're like little bit off. You're close, but little bit off. What does compiler do exactly?
Compiles the program.
That is not an answer. Compiler compile करता है. That is not an answer. What does it do? Compiling में क्या होता है?
Compiler compile the program and translate into machine code.
Yes. So compiler generates an intermediate code. Then that intermediate code is executed. So that is the main difference between compiler and interpreter. Interpreter directly executes the program line by line. So according to you, which one is faster, compiler or interpreter?
Compiler.
Correct. Why? Why compiler is faster even though you have to generate an intermediate code first?
I think because interpreter interprets line by line.
Okay,
Compiler converts overall code at a time, so it can be faster than the interpreter does with line by line.
you're a little bit close. You are. So compilers actually use compiled languages, I should say, are usually faster because and they don't have to check for errors before executing because errors are always checked during compile time only. So if you see C++, C, Java, all of these languages are faster than Python because uh, they all the errors are always checked beforehand, and scripted languages, I should say, are dynamically typed languages. Not dynamically, sorry, scripting languages which use an interpreter. So JavaScript, Python, all of these use an interpreter with a garbage collector. So first, all the errors have to be checked, and then all the garbage values are corrected. So that is why compiled languages such as Java, C++ are faster than Python. So these are the following basic data types in Python, which are like almost similar to what other languages have. So there is an integer, there is float values, strings, and boolean. There's also bytes, but that is a advanced data type. And then we have some data structures: list, tuple, set, and dictionary. And there is also classes, but that will be a different discussion. So as you can see, there is no array. List serves as a purpose for array in this programming language. Now coming on to variables. Same variable is a reserved memory location to store values, which is common across all programming languages. And unlike other languages, there is no keyword for declaring a variable. You can just write straight away. You can straight away initialize a variable without having to. There's no keyword. You can just write x equals to 1, and the variable will be initialized. And yes, a variable is created the moment you assign a value to it. So Python is dynamically typed because there is no need to specify any data type. It was handled internally by the interpreter, and we can also reassign different data type to the variable after we have assigned the first time. and data type will change according to the new data. And current data type of a variable can be checked with a type function, which is inbuilt, which we'll see later on. So the rules are same for like in other programming languages, cannot start with digit, spaces are not allowed, cannot contain special characters like hashtag or question mark, only underscore is allowed. And of course, Python keyword, any keywords are not allowed. Excuse me. So, so over here, so you can see x equals to 10. So now the x variable is created. Now if I do print x and if I do print of type of x, the output will be generated. And then obviously you can see I've reassigned again to hello world to x. So we can assign different data types to the same variable. And if you run this program in the terminal, you can see over here first the data type of x is int, then it changes to string, and for y you are assigned a float value. So coming on to string is an ordered sequence of characters, and it's an array of bytes representing Unicode characters. Strings in Python can be represented using single quote, double quote, or triple quotes. Any of these three is fine. So even in the same statement, if you use for one string, if you use a single quote, for another string you use double quote, that is completely fine. And yeah, yeah. So that is like one of convenience of Python. And string with triple quotes will also allow multiple lines. And we'll later on see how triple quotes are also used as comments. And of course, and yeah, so string in Python is immutable. Once you assign a string, you cannot change it. So if I have a string x equals dev star, and the index are assigned as follows. So forward indexes obviously starts from 0 to 6. So I can access each individual element, like x of 0 will be D. If I have to call x of 1, it will be E, like that. But I cannot reassign any of these indexes. It will generate an error. So some of the string functions in Python, these are like very little small useful functions. We will go over them one by one. So first one is length, len function. So len is not specifically for strings. It is a built-in function for any object, any data type in Python for any variable. For strings, if you do len of any like this, if you can see in the example below, it will generate the length of the string len. And for any other for any data type, it will always like return the size of the data type, like that. Any len is or is also only used for iterable data types only, not for int or float. That I'll explain later what is an iterable data type. So these are some functions. Count. So if you call count function on any string, it will, and if you pass any character in it, so it will return how many times that character has occurred in the string. So examples I'll just show you. So these all methods are like very, there are huge amount of built-in methods. So I'll not demonstrate each one of them. All these examples are there. These are like totally no-brainer methods. You have to just call them and it will do the function. Is all the usability is obvious from the name itself. So as you can see, if I have the text is there, and if I do text.count, and if I pass apple in it, and it will print the amount of time this substring occurs in this? So the answer is 2 because over here and here. And these are the other parameters, some parameters. So these are like lot of string functions. Capitalize will capitalize each word of the string. Lower will do to lowercase. Upper will do to uppercase. This title will check whether first letter of each word is capitalized. Is lower will check whether the string is in lowercase. Is upper will check for is it in uppercase. Find will find a substring. Replace will replace that substring. Index will check the index of a character, and some other like is alpha will check for alphabet. Is alnum will check for alphanumeric string, and rest is like obvious for decimal and for digit. And of course, strip method will remove any white spaces. So L strip is removing white space from left side. R strip is removing white space from right side. So, strings are string slicing. So now this is one of the most powerful things you can do with strings, and what makes handling strings in Python so easy is string slicing. So basically, what it is, uh, you can call any substring from the string without having to loop over it. So Python has a syntax for slicing. So basically, if I have a string here, say x, so if I have to call x start index colon end index, and if I have to write steps, so it will generate a substring for me. So I don't have to loop over strings again and again. I'll just demonstrate that over here. So if I run this, so you can see it takes the substring from start index to end index. But the end index is actually not included in the slice. So from third, it will be these two will be returned. So it's like that. And if I have to write step, I'll just increase this. Yeah. So if I have to include the step parameter, then it will skip every two, like from starting index. If I say 3, so from that it will skip every second index, and it will just return that. So it's that. So slicing is what makes generating substrings in Python so easy. And with slicing, I can just do this. I'll just keep start index and end index blank. And if I just do steps equals to -1, then I'll just reverse the string. So reversing a string is like very easy in Python. It's just this one command. You can also do string reverse or string dot sort reverse equals true. Those two methods are also there, but this is usually a preferred method. If you know string is fixed, so you can just call it this way. So this is a really like powerful functionality of strings slicing. Yeah. So now we come to sprint formatting. So in C++, you have seen that you use like a placeholder like %C or %D. So in Python, instead of that, we just use the format method. So for format method, we will just use these curly brackets as placeholders, and then I'll just call dot format method, and then I can pass an argument over here. So anything I pass over here is printed, is added to the string over here. So these are the placeholders, and then it is added to the string. I can even do multiple placeholders. It will accept multiple arguments from here. See, so from over here. So this is like very useful method for formatting any string, because if you have any, you can even pass any variable name over here too. It's not necessary to pass the specifically string over here. You can just write format AB, and if I just declare A and B above, so it will just again do this. So this is a very easy method to print any values. For example, if you are doing any automation sort of thing, if you want to print dynamically print any username, so username or anything, display data dynamically, you can just use this dot format method. So yeah. Then finally we come to popular data structures in Python. So these are the four basic data structures: list, dictionary, and sets and tuples. So dictionary start with square brackets, and it is an ordered sequence of objects. So all of these objects in a list will have an index starting from 0. Dictionary are key value pairs. This dictionaries are used using curly brackets. If you have seen JavaScript, or if you know JSON format, so it is basically the same thing. So it is a unordered key value pair, and tuples are ordered immutable sequence of objects. Round brackets, they use round brackets. So it is basically same as list, but except it is immutable. So once you declare a tuple, you cannot change any value inside a tuple. And then finally, last is set, which is one of the useful built-in data structures. In Java, you have to use a special library to access set, even in same for C and C++, but Python it is built in already. So set is unordered collection of unique objects. It's the same like in maths. So kind of like same in maths. So it is unordered collection of unique objects. There cannot be any duplicates in set. Even if you if you want to declare a set with a duplicate, it will automatically remove any duplicates. The sets also start with a curly brackets. So list, again, as I mentioned, it's a mutable order of sequence, and duplicate values are inside allowed. And lists are represented using square brackets. Python does not have any array. So array are usually contiguous contiguous data structures. So can anybody tell me what is contiguous? Like how array store elements?
The memory allocation is like contiguous means.
Yeah, yeah. So one
Like
after one after another. Yeah, yeah.
if one is 1024 and other one would be 1026 if 2 bytes of integer is considered.
Correct. So, but in list, memory is not contiguous, like it's allocated randomly. And list also supports slicing, same as strings. So we can get any sublist from the list, which will be very useful in the afternoon session when you will learn competitive programming using Python. So this is very useful to generate any sublist. So I'll just go over some list methods. So append method will add element at the end of the list. So if I declare a list over here, say 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I can just do dot append 5. Now if I put print, 5 will be added at the end. Yeah, so you can say 5 is added at the end. So this is the dot append method. So next is insert method. So insert will insert the element at a specified index. So if I have to say to add to print it. Yeah. So as you can see, at the first zero index, I've added element 6. So it will add over here. Next is the extend method. So if I have any other data structure such as any other list or any other tuple, so it will just add that to this list. So if I declare another list, say ABC, and if I do as you can see, by extend method, the entire second list is added to the end of the first list. And pop method, if anybody remembers stack, so it is similar. It will remove the last element from the list. So if I do this pop, it will just remove the last element. So C is removed. And if I call the remove method, it will remove the first occurrence of the element. So yeah, I'm gonna just add one more element to the list first, so you can see the difference. Yeah. So over here, as you can see, I added another A to the list, and if I call the remove method, it will remove the first occurrence of the element. So you can see the A which was at beginning before this, it was removed. And then there is the clear method, which will remove all the elements from the list. Basically, add simple will create an empty list, and then index method will return the first index of the element specified. So if I do this, as you can see, element 1 is at index 1, so it will return index like that. So these are some list methods, and then again count method, same as string. It will count the occurrences of the specified element. Reverse will reverse the elements of the list, and again slicing is also, we can reverse using slicing also. So if I just do like this, so it will just reverse the uh, list. And I forgot to mention that slicing does not affect the original list. It will generate an entirely new list. Same goes for string. If I have to reverse a string, it will not affect the original string like that. But if you do the reverse method, then it will affect the original list. And again, the sort method will sort the elements in the list. So it was throwing a error because string and integer cannot be compared. Python always throws runtime error only because it is an interpreted language. I'll just do it on the list one. It's already sorted. Yeah, so as you can see over here, it is not sorted, but if I have to call dot sort method, then it will get sorted. So this was about list. So there is actually one more thing about list. It's called list comprehension, but I'll explain that after we complete loops. So basically, you don't have to always create lists like that. You can use some shorthand functions or shorthand notation also. It's called list comprehension. Some of you may already know it, but I'll explain that when we do loops. So now we come on to tuples. So tuple is similar to list, but except that it is unimmutable. You cannot change a tuple after you have declared it, and it's used. Round brackets are used to create tuples. So I'll just erase this. As you can see, this is a tuple, and if I try to change it, Python will generate an error saying type error saying tupled object does not support item assignment. And to just demonstrate the difference, if I do with a string, and if I take a list, if I do this, this one now. Comments in Python are used with the hash. So this is just the see. Again, string will generate. String does not support item assignment over here, but list will support. So if I just do this and print the list, yeah. So as you can see at the 0 index, the element is changed to 4. So string and tuple do not support item assignment. If you declare, you cannot change it, change specific positions. And with tuple, it's basically same like list only. You can access element, but you cannot change it. So if I do tuple p of 0, you can see you can access the element. So tuple is actually useful for functions where any sort of it's used as a security measure basically. So if I'm writing a program, if I'm writing a function that needs to return some values and I do not want that values to change, so I'll just put them inside a tuple and I'll just return the entire tuple only. And so if I also want to do like this, so if I create an entity tuple, T1 and this, and if I just do, and T1 will have the entire values which were there in T in the same order. So this is actually called tuple unpacking. This method is called tuple unpacking. Basically, all the elements are assigned to an empty tuple like this, one by one, all the elements. So we take the tuple, we unpack it, we assign all the elements to the empty tuple, and then again that tuple is formed. So this is called tuple unpacking. And this method is actually useful for swapping elements. So basically, if you want to do if you want to make a tuple, it's not. If you want to do tuple unpacking, it's not necessary to make a tuple. So, for example, if I have to do x and y, now if I want to swap these values, traditional method you'll have to use a temp and then assign that temp, and then uh, we'll have to do something like this. So x equals to y equals to temp. So this is how traditional swapping is done in other languages. But for Python, instead of all this, you can just write x comma y equals to y comma x. This is also a tuple unpacking. Basically, y comma x will form a tuple, and then all that value is assigned to this tuple, which is x comma y. I have to print it first. Yeah. As you can see, the values are swapped. So this is another useful feature, and you can do it with any number of variables. If I have to write that equal to 3, a equals to 4, so x, z, a, z, y. Yeah, as you can see, then the values are swapped completely. You can do this in any order. So this is also one of the useful features of tuple unpacking and tuple. You can easily swap within few lines of code only. There's no need to create a temporary variable. This is one of the like little bit like छोटे मोटे feature होते हैं जो बहुत helpful होते हैं. So this is like that. Now dictionary, yeah. So dictionary is little bit complicated and some more, and it's easy, like it's easy to understand, but implementation थोड़ा हो सकता है complicated हो. It is an unordered collection of key value pairs, basically same as in JavaScript. If you have learned, there is a JSON JavaScript object, right? So in that also, key value pairs are generated, basically same like that. Dictionary is of course mutable. So this is the syntax for a dictionary. So on left side will be the keys, on right side will be the values, and key value is separated by colon. And the pairs themselves are separated by comma. So as you can see, created one dictionary. So you can see first key is ID, which has a value 1. So if I do this method, so values can be accessed using the key inside square brackets, which is basically same as indexing, or you can use the get method. So few methods for dictionary. The keys method will return a list of all keys associated with the dictionary. The values method will return the list of values, and the items method will return a list of tuples. So it is a complex data structure. List of tuple of each key value pair. So over here in the example, as you can see, the output will be ID, city, and type. So this is a list returned by .keys function. Next, the .values function will return all values inside the dictionary. So 1, Vadodara, and engineering. Then dot items method will return a list of tuple for each key value pair. So as you can see, this is a tuple, and in the tuple, the first element is the ID, and the second element is the value. And all of these tuples are inside a list. So this is a list of tuples. Okay. So now this is a dictionary. If I want to add any element or any key value pair to this, so what I can do is just write the new key inside this, and then just do the and write the value, and then if I just print the dictionary, as you can see, the key value pair is added right there. So that's how you can add new values to dictionary. And there will be a few more methods. And yeah, so duplicates are not allowed. Duplicates as in dictionary cannot have two items with same key. So two duplicate keys are not allowed, but duplicate values are allowed. Okay. So if I call the len function on a dictionary, it will return the number of items in a dictionary. And same goes for list and tuple also. If I call the len function, it will just return the number of items in that. And you can have complex any other data structures as a value. So as you can see over here, it's a boolean, integer, string, and for here the value is a list. So you can do this. It's easy. And for type, it will return a dictionary. So these are a few overview about dictionary. Accessing, as I said, accessing items will be like this. We can just call the key, and it will just return the value for that key. You can use the get method also, and for keys, like I said, it will return the list of keys. For value dot values will return the list of values. Items will return the list of items. Yeah. So if you want to check if a key exists, you can use the in keyword. Okay, I'll explain later with operators. So okay, I'll move on to the set now. The set is again unordered collection of unique objects. Set will be represented using curly brackets. So it's basically the set in set which you use in maths. So if you're having duplicate items in a set in maths, that's basically the same thing if you have just one item. And it has almost similar to any other methods, like it has add will add dot add method will add element, clear will clear the elements, dot copy method will copy the set, pop will remove the last one, remove will remove any element specified at the index. So yeah, basically all those methods, all these data structures, list, tuple, set, they share some common built-in functions which will serve the same purpose only. So no need to go over them again. So yeah, so if I manually create a set with duplicate items, and if I print it, it will just print. The set is created with only the unique items. So this is very useful if you want to count, suppose, an occurrence. Like I have to check how many letters are there, unique letters are there in a string or something. So you can convert the string to a list first, and then you can convert the list to a set. So that and this interchanging between data types is easily allowed. So I'll demonstrate. So if I have the string hello world, so if I want to convert this into a list, so I'll just do p dot split method, and yeah. So you can just use this typecasting. So this is a typecasting. Just create list is a function which is used for typecasting. So if I have a string here, hello world, and if I just call list of t, so it will convert this string into a list. Okay. So now if I call set of this and print this, so you can see it will generate any unique elements. And as you can see, order of the elements is not preserved because it is an unordered structure. So order is not preserved. If anybody has any doubt till now, please let me know. Or if I'm going too fast. Okay.
Anyone? Do you have any doubt? See, doubt નથી, that means या तो તમને કઈ જ ખબર નથી પડી या તો તમને બધું ખબર પડી છે. What should I consider? Are we following TCP connection or UDP connection? Then we will.
Please let me know if you have any doubt, because I'll give some practice questions for you to solve and you need to do them. Okay. So after list, then we finally come on to operators. So some of the arithmetic operators, they are basically common across all programming languages. Addition is there, subtraction, division, multiplication. Now we have modulo in Python. Modulo is very useful in Python because in other languages you may have to calculate it by hand. And then we have integer division or floor division. So basically, as you can see in the example, we have a equals 10 and b equals 3. So 10 divided by 3 gives 3.333, and it is a recurring decimal expansion. But if I don't want a float value, I want an integer value. So I can just use this double slash. So it will give an integer division and it will give the floor value of this answer. And then we have this operator, which is not there in other languages. It's the exponentiation operator. So we can use a raised to b. So which is basically 10 into 10 into 3. So 10 raised to 3. So it multiplies 10 3 times. So it's 1000. So this is useful. You don't have to use math library to do exponentiation. In other languages, you have to call math.power function like that. It's there in Python, but still you don't have to use it. You can just use this operator instead. Now, logical operators, again, the keywords are syntax is very easy. And this and operator is just and, or is or, and not is not. It's basically simple. That is why syntax is very easy to read in Python. And operator will return true if both statements are true, or will return true if any one is true, and not will return the reverse of the condition. And as you can see here, a is greater than 5 and b is less than 5 true for or also it returns true, and for not, it will change the value to false. It's very simple. Now, this is one of the again useful features for Python, which reduces code by a lot, which is identity and member operators. So the first one is and is not for identity. Basically, it checks for, like, if you are seen in JavaScript, you use the triple equals to check whether two objects are equal or not. So this is basically the same thing. And not only that, it also checks whether like in Python. So here, as you can see, I've created two lists A, B, and then for third variable C, I've written C equals to A. So now if I do this in Python, this will not create another list for C. C will just point to A. So C will act like a pointer to A. It is like that. Little bit. I'll just demonstrate to you. So in Python, there is an ID function. So to get the ID of a variable. So for A, as you can see, this is the memory location, like translated memory location for A. And if I do for B, it will generate a different ID. And yeah, every time you run a program, so the location will change. But if I do this for C, it should be same as A. Yeah. So as you can see, the ID for A, which is over here, and for C over here, this is same. So in Python, if you do like this, if you do C equals A, so that will not create a separate memory location and a separate data structure for C. C will just contain memory location for A. It will just point to that. And if you do any changes to C, I do C dot append B, and if I print A instead, it will change the original value also. See, I appended to C, and what all the changes are reflected in A. So over here, it acts like a pointer. Okay, but if I really want to assign like a different, entirely different data structure I want to copy, then I'll just use the copy method. Yeah, so now you can see these are two different. If I print A is unaffected, or C3 is added, and as you can see, memory location for A and C is different. So be careful in Python. If you want to copy an entire data structure, then you have to use the dot copy method. It's not like in other languages, the entire data structure is also copied. So, okay, so be careful with that. So the is operator will check whether it points to the same memory location or not. So if I do A is B, then it will return false, because both of these, even though the value is same, it will not point to the same memory location. And if I do A is C, then it will return true. And is not, well, again, it's the opposite of is. A is not B will return true. So these two are the identity operators. And now the member operators. So if I have A equals 2 and a list B with 1, 2, 3, if I do A in B, it will return true. So it will automatically check whether A is inside this data structure B. So this is one of the useful operators in Python. But for in other languages, if you want to check whether an element exists inside an array, you have to go iterate over the array, and then return true or false. But in Python, you can just use the in operator, and it's very easy. And again, the not in is just opposite of in. If it's not, if it's there, then it will return false. So for not in. So it's very, very easy. And to demonstrate a difference, I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, b equals 3. Now I can just do m b in a. Yeah, so see, it returns true, and not covered loops, but still I'll just demonstrate. Now, if I have to iterate, if I have to do it the traditional way, so traditional way, not covered loops, but this time I'm showing. Yeah. So for member operator, this is basically the syntax. But for traditional way, I have to do a loop, then I have to check for each index, and if such an element exists, then I'll just print true. So this is the traditional way. But obviously, instead of all this, you can just write this 1b in A. So this helps a lot in Python, and it also saves time, a lot of time also. Now we come to control statements. It's basically if, else if, and all that. So if again, if statement is using the if keyword followed by the condition and colon. If it's if it's true, then the next line will be executed inside the block. And yeah, in Python, the code block is, or the scope, you can say, it's used. It's white spaces or indentation, not curly brackets. In C, C++, Java, JavaScript, all of these use curly brackets to define a scope. But in Python, white spaces or indentation is used to define a scope. So that is why you can often get indentation error, because even if it's just a one white space difference is there, then it will throw an error, which can be annoying a little bit, I can tell you, after 3 years of Python. So basically, this is the code for if any condition colon, then leave some space for the scope, and then start whatever the code is there. And yeah, so any kind of, if you want to define any kind of scope in Python, not just for if, it will always ends with colon. That I'll demonstrate further on. Yeah, as you can see, indentation or tab, you can just press tab, and all the indentation inside the block of code has to be uniform. Otherwise, it will again throw an error. If I do x equals 10, if x greater than 5, then x is greater than 5. If I execute the file, then the output will be generated that yes, x is greater than 5. Now, if else, again, if the if condition fails, then else block is executed. Simple again. It's very, like, basics are very easy to understand because you have learned so many languages already. So the difference is just in syntax. Now the else if, instead of else if, there is elif. The keyword is elif. So if condition 1 elif condition 2, elif condition 3, etc. till else for the final condition. As you can see, the output is generated like that. So this is also useful. Now we come to looping. So many objects are iterable in Python. So as you can, iterable means we can access each and element in the object. We can iterate over them, and elements such as list, string, tuples, sets. All of these are called an iterable objects. We can use for loop to access, like to process each element of the object. As you know, for loop. Can anybody tell me when do we use for loop exactly? There is for loop and there is while loop. So when do we use for loop and when do we use while loop? Anyone? Anybody knows difference in usage when we use for loop and when we use while loop?
If you want to run, when you know how many times you want to loop, then you may use for loop.
Yes. So for any block of code, if you know how many iterations or how many steps you want to execute it for fixed number of times, we use for loop. So same as over here, we know that iterables have fixed length. Yes, so iterables will have fixed length. So we know if we want to access each and every element of the iterable, then of course we'll use for loop. We can use while loop, but for loop is better suited. And again, as you can see, there is a colon for any sort of scope or any block code. Colon is used. Indentation, again, you have to maintain proper. And if I want, there's a list, and if I want to access all elements in the list, so this is basically the easy way for list item in my list. So this is like a for each loop in Java or JavaScript. You must have learned for each loop, right? So this is basically the same thing like that for list item in my list. So what it will do, it will first iteration, it will take the first item. For second iteration, it will take the second item, and it will print them one by one. Yeah, we can just add any condition. So for this block of code, it will print only the even numbers. As you can see, it is modulo 2 equals to 0, which is a condition for even number. So it will print only even numbers. You can also access them using indexes. In the example I showed over here. So this is accessing elements in a list by using indexes. This is only if you don't. This method is used if you don't know the index of a specific element. But generally, you can just use the in operation. That is much better actually. So this is accessing elements using the index. So this over here is a range function. This is a built-in function which will return like a list of values. Basically, it's using the same thing. Okay, so I have to do print range from 0 to 10. So it will return a list It's actually a range. Okay, so it returns an range object from 1 to 0 to 10. It's an iterable. So one by one, all the values from 0 to 9. The 10, the last value is excluded. From 0 to 9, all values will be there in this. I can just typecast this into a list. So here, now it will be visible. Yeah. So as you can see, from 0 to 9, all the digits are there. Now if I want to add a step value, I can do that too. I can just do this. So all even values are there for every second value is there. Sorry, not the C. I do 3, then 0, 0, 3, 6, 9, like that. So this is the range function, and for accessing index in a for loop, when accessing by index in a for loop, we use this range function, and it goes from 0 to length of a, which is basically 4, but as you can see, the indexes are from 0 to 3. So again, the range will return from 0 to 3. And for I, this is basically again a counter variable. And the method that was shown in the example. So we can just do it. Yes, it's there. Sorry, it's A. Yeah, so as you can see, we produce the exact same result. So this is a much harder if you know, like if you have to process any item, or for automation, you have to parse a log file. If you have to find like that. So this is how we access elements in a for loop. Now this is tuple unpacking, which I spoke of before. And yeah, we have nested data structures like list of tuples, and we want to iterate over the list. Then we use tuple unpacking. So over here, as you can see, for list item in my list. So basically, what it will do for first iteration, it will take this first tuple, and then it will print the first element of this tuple. So answer will be 1. Sorry, second member. Sorry, second element. It's 1. So it will print 2, 5, 8 like that. Now, instead of doing this, we can just use the tuple unpacking that we have learned. We can just write for ABC in my list, print B. So this is again powerful method. Instead of having to rely on indexes, we can just, if we just know if we have to print the second, we can just use the tuple unpacking in this. And this feature, this syntax will be used frequently if you are doing machine learning, or if you are doing learning OpenCV. So in that, this will be very useful. Yeah, I see. I told you this technique is called tuple unpacking. Again, the output will be the same. Now, range is again, as I demonstrated, but the range will return an iterable, and yeah, it takes at most maximum it will take 3 arguments, and if you don't specify the first argument, if you say range 5, then it will start by default from 0 only. Now we come to while loop. While loop will continue execute a block of code until the condition remains true. Like that. These are some like basic examples. Syntax is again same. While condition semicolon and code to execute. Indentation you have to maintain. X equals to 0 while x is less than 3, print x plus equal to 1. This is actually not true. X plus plus is not supported in Python. You have to do x plus equal to 1, and the output will be 0, 1, 2. And as when x becomes 3, so the condition becomes false and the loop is exited. as you can see, when this condition becomes false, we can just write else directly with this and it will print like that. Now these are some keywords: break, continue, and pass. You must have break and continue from previous languages. So break will just break. It will just exit the loop. It will come out of the loop control. And for continue, it is basically the skipping the rest of the iteration. It will start again. So if length equal to 2, you can just continue. It will skip the rest of the code, whatever is there, and it will just start the loop again. And for pass is basically for doing nothing. If you have a function or if you have block of code, if you want to do nothing in it, then you can just use pass. Pass is basically used as a placeholder. It's not used that much in practical implementation or daily life. It's just used as a placeholder if you're developing or if you're doing competitive coding. If you have some of the code mentioned already in the solution, so the function will have a pass. So you have to, and if you have to complete the function, it will just have a pass. So it's usually used as a placeholder when you don't have to do anything. So it will just print, no output is print, nothing is printed. Now we come to functions. So function is obviously creating reusability, and it's important. Function is again block of code. It only runs when it is called. To create functions in Python, we use the def keyword, def function name, brackets, and any argument or parameter we want to pass for the function, we just write in the bracket, then colon, and then again writing the code. So as you can see, separator function is created, which prints this line. And if I have to print, if I call this function, then the output will be generated like that. This is how a function is created in Python. Now, docstring is basically like a comment, multi-line comment in itself. So it's usually used for documentation in a function. If you want to write what the function does, what are the input parameters, and what output is generated by the function, you put that in a docstring. And docstring is in triple quotes, as you can see. I mentioned it earlier, so it's used for commenting. Now, return statement will actually allow us to return any value. And since Python is dynamically typed, we don't have to define what type of value it will return. As you can see, it's just def function name. We don't write def void, def int, or def string, or whatever like that. So return whatever value is returned, that will be the return type for the function. So over here, I have written def add number, and I passed two parameters n1 and n2, and these are passed by values only. These are not passed by references. These are passed by values. And Python, when you pass arguments, you always pass with value only, not reference. Can anybody tell me what's the difference between the two, pass by value and pass by reference? Anyone? It's simple. Must have learned it in Java also, C, C++, Java. All three times it must have been repeated. Even it must have been repeated in JavaScript also. Pass by reference versus pass by value. Anyone? Please, anyone, unmute yourself and answer. I'll have to pick someone. Yash Modi, 19 DCS 65. Can you tell me the difference? Pass by reference versus pass by value. Kishan, 19 DCS 14.
Students, please speak up. Answer the questions. If you don't know, then simply say you don't know.
Question is very simple. Difference between pass by reference and pass by value.
Yeah, so in pass by value, the value is copied and a new variable is generated, whereas in a pass by reference, we pass the pointer, or you can say the address, to the variable. So this is pass by reference.
Correct. Akshat is right. Pass by value, the value is passed, and pass by reference, the memory location to the variable is passed. So in Python, it's always pass by value. Look, your basics have to be cleared. Otherwise, in placement, you will face a lot of difficulty during interviews. All of these basics need to be cleared because they will interviewers will only ask the last basics first. And if you can't do that, then it will be a lot of trouble for you. Okay, so let's just pass these arguments over here, and the return type for this will obviously what will be the return type for n1 and n1 and n2, and as you can see the output is 8 and 7. So why I'm saying the return type will depend on the return variable, because even for like same as for variables, we don't define data type. For function, we don't define the return type. For parameters also, we don't define what will be the data type for the parameters, and the operation will still be performed. Now, if I So I've created 4 variables, a, b, and x, y. So x and y are obviously integers, and from this example, you have seen that the output for integers will just add. So what will happen if I pass the string value for this function? Can anybody tell me what will happen? what will happen if I pass string over here? Will it generate an error or any output will be generated?
Hello world will be generated.
Okay, yeah. So strings for, if you do plus operator on string in Python, those strings will be concatenated. So this is basically saying that there is no hard and fast rule that you just have to pass integer only if you want to add. If you want to do, you can pass any sort of compatible data structure. But there will be an error generated if I do x and a. An error will be generated saying integer and string cannot be added. So at least the data types that you are about to perform add operation, they must be compatible and supported by the operator. If I want to pass two lists over here, I can do that also. I can just do this. So for list, the list will be concatenated or extended like that. So even if you don't want to do the dot extend method, you can just do list one plus list two, and the list will be added like that. This is basically the reusability for Python, and it also it also demonstrates the dynamically typed nature of Python. There is no data type specified over here, nothing is specified, but still the same operation is performed over three different data types. So yeah, so I explained everything till the basics are covered basically, except everything except the object oriented, which will be covered on later. We are planning to do this like in a series. So this was your first session, and everything from here is like completed. Now I'll give some programs. I'll write them in. I'll type them in my notepad. I'll open up a screen. 1 second. Yeah, so is Notepad visible?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'll type some programs. You have to perform them and show me the give me the output. I'll demonstrate some. I'll also give the input. Okay. So first one is to find maximum of two numbers. So the input suppose is any two numbers, say 3 or 2 and 5. The output should be 5. You can do this anyway if you want to create a function and do this. If you want to directly type the program, directly write the block of code or directly write the logic, you can do that also. Second will be reverse words in a string. So for that, the input will be suppose if I say teacher's day celebration, this is the string. So the output should be celebration teacher's day. You can, I did not like cover some of the things maybe. So you can just go to W3 schools and you can refer to all of these, any extra functions that you need. You can go to W3 schools, you can check out all the functions which are there in Python. You are free to do that. But again, I'll suggest not just copying the entire code from Geeks or any other website. You need to understand. You can refer functions, you can type the program by yourself. Please do not copy directly from the online. Okay. Program to check for palindrome. This should be very easy. Palindrome string. So if I have input string is Anna, so the output should be true. Yeah, in Python, true and false are Boolean, and notice the T is capital. So please be careful for that. Next is create number and cube of the number. In a tuple. For example, if I have the input list 1, 2, 3, 4, then the output should be a list of tuples with first will be the number itself, then the cube. Yeah. So do these 4 programs first, then we will move on to the others. And if you have any doubt, just unmute and ask me. As I cannot see the chat is not visible to me. So yeah, I think I got disconnected by mistake. Yeah. So if you have any doubt, just please unmute yourself and ask me, because I cannot see the chat. Chat is not visible to me. I'll just keep the I'll just keep my screen shared. Yeah. So my screen is now shared. All the questions are there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So now just complete these 4 programs. You are free to refer to any other functions. You can, there is no restriction. You can use a shortcut method. You can use the traditional programming method. So yeah, just complete these 4 programs within 20 to 25 minutes. And if you have completed, then just raise your hand so I can see who has completed. एक भी क्वेश्चन हुआ किसी से? At least one question. Then tell me.
Yes, 3 done.
Okay, 3 done ना? Uh, यहाँ मैंने एक लिंक लिखी है कोड शेयर की. Just go to this link and अभी किसने किसने बोला था किसका हुआ है? Please tell me your name.
Meet
ID number.
111 19 BCS 1.
Okay. So ये लिंक पे नोटपैड पे दिख रही है ना ये लिंक codeshare.io.
Yes.
आपको ये लिंक पे जाना and just copy paste your code one by one on the code share screen. Just 1 minute. I'll just keep these questions over here first. So I'll just stop sharing. Hmm. Okay, so start pasting your answer. Done it, right? So start pasting answer from line 11. Okay, everyone, don't just start. Please post it one by one. Otherwise, I won't know कि किसका आंसर है. Pranit? Nineteen DCS 111. Are you there? Am I audible? Hello?
ઓકે સમક્ષ મિતનો ફોન આવ્યો છે, એના ઘરે લાઇટ ગઈ છે એટલે એ લેફ્ટ થઈ ગયો છે. હમણાં 5-10 મિનિટમાં જોઈન કરે છે ફરી.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, so if my screen is visible, then you can see for fourth answer he has used list comprehension. So I'll just demonstrate that quickly. Yeah. So list comprehension is actually a very shortcut way to create lists using for loop. So, for example, if I have an existing list, suppose A, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I want to create another list, B, which has cube of all these numbers in A. So first I'll create an empty list B, then I'll do for num in A, B dot append num to the power 3. Now I'll just print B. So as you can see, the cube of all these have been created. So now this is actually even this is actually a longer way. There is even a shorter way to create such a list. So I'll just create another list C. Now this is called list comprehension. So what I'll do is just this. So what I'm doing is for the for loop, I'm accessing each element num, and I'm specifying here what actually I have to process on the element, and that this final, after all calculation and all processing, this element will be appended to the list. So if I do this and print C, you can see again the list is created same. So this is actually a shortcut way for creating lists. This notation is called list comprehension.
Samaksh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Meet has joined again. So if
Okay.
you want to discuss something with him, so you can.
Yeah, Meet.
Yes.
Yes. So you understood list comprehension before
Yes.
writing the solution, right? Okay. this is actually the shortest way of writing the solution for the fourth program that I've given. And if you are doing development or if you are in competitive coding, these type of shortcut solutions will be most useful. Okay, so the only problem in this that list is actually a keyword in Python. So you cannot just write list over here. This will throw an error. Okay. For rest, palindrome. Okay, this is a short answer for the program. Just take the slice of the string like in this way, so it will reverse the string, and then you just check it with the original, and if it's equal, then you just return true or false. And yes, in Python, there is a built-in function called max. There's also a built-in function called min. It will check. It will take two. It will take it can take any number of variables, n number, and it will just print the maximum out of that. So for if you have inputted integer here, so it will just take the maximum of any of the two and just print it. It is basically the max function. If you go inside the code, it will just be something like this only. It will just check which one is the greatest. Again, yes, slicing. Okay, so no, for second question, nobody found the answer. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, this is not correct. D20 DIT 94. Who is this?
Hello.
Rishabh, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what you have done is actually just reversed the string. You have not reversed the words. Okay. So
No, it's
I have given the input teachers.
it must be words.
I've given the input teachers day celebration. Your program, your solution will just your program will just do this. So this is actually reversing the whole string.
No, it's not reversing the string, it's reversing the words. Run it, then
Okay, you have done with list. Okay. Then it's fine. Yeah. Then it's correct. Yeah. Okay. So for again for this trick, I'll give you a shortcut instead of running like a loop to manually append each string. So instead of that, what you can do is just just take a whole string and just do. I want to create a list. So what I can do is just a dot split, and I'll pass the white space. So for split function, string supports split function, and they take an argument as a separator. So over here now, if I do print L, so what will do, it will generate a list of all words which are separated by like list of all elements, like in the string, a separator white space. So all the words are there. All the words will be separated into a list. Now if I do comma, and instead of white space, if I pass a comma, then it will separate according to the comma. So the split function takes a separator and it will split the string into a list. As you can see, there it's a list over here. So instead of running a loop and then asking for number of words, just do the split method and then it will automatically split it into a list. So these are all some useful little functions which will save a lot of time, and it will also reduce the complexity of your code. Okay. After the lunch, Dhruvik will take over. So he will teach you about competitive coding using Python. And over there, you will see all these little functions being used. Maximum of 2, yeah, okay. Just greater than. Yeah, again, yeah. This is also good. Using the join method. Okay, so now the join method is actually the reverse for string, or sorry, reverse or split method. So I have this, and L, a list is now generated, L with these words. Now if I want to combine these again into a string, so what I'll do, I'll just use a blank string, okay. Then I'll call dot join method on it, and I'll call parameter L. So what it will do, it will just add these over here like that. So split and join are actually string functions, and for join you have to pass an iterable. List is an iterable, so over here the list was appended to the string over here. And this can be considered as a separator string dot join L. So if I just take nothing, just an empty string, then there will be no separation. If I take a comma, then separation will be there, and if I take white space, then space will be there. So good. Yeah, I hope you are not just copying from online and pasting the answer. I hope you're understanding each and every function. Yep, all these answers are correct. Now I'll give you a few questions that we were asked during interviews. So these questions will be important for your from placement point of view. So suppose I have a input number 156. So what I have to do in the program is I have to take the sum of the digits, which is 12. Then The sum is not a single digit number. If the sum is not a single digit number, then I have to again take the sum of that sum of digits of that number. Then I have to do this. So basically, what you have to do is sum over the digits continuously until a single digit is produced like this. So for example, if input is there 156, I have taken the number 156, and uh, the will be output will be 3. So this is an important question that we were asked in our interview. Try to solve this one. You have to logic ज़्यादा apply करना है more than Python. Like use Python syntax or use the Pythonic way to solve this. किसी ने अटेम्प्ट किया 5th वाला क्वेश्चन? एनीवन? कैसे अप्रोच करना है प्रॉब्लम, सॉल्यूशन खाली बता दो पहले. Don't write the code. Just tell me what's your approach. Fifth question, it's not just about Python, it's about programming logic, how your logic is developed. There are actually two solutions to the problem. So if you can tell at least the brute force approach or the simple approach. Anyone? थोड़ा सा idea? Meet? Okay, he's not there now. Akshat? अक्षत, कोई आइडिया है?
हेलो.
हाँ.
हाँ, क्वेश्चन क्या था, वापस रिपीट करो ना. वो
हाँ.
थोड़ा इधर नेटवर्क इशू है.
ओके. सो ये अगर मैं प्रोग्राम में इनपुट देता हूँ 156, तो उसका सम ऑफ डिजिट्स करना है. एंड अगर वो सिंगल डिजिट नहीं हुआ तो वापस सम ऑफ डिजिट्स करना है until you get a single digit answer. So you have to keep on doing sum of digits until the sum is a single digit. इसका अप्रोच कैसे होगा? अप्रोच बता दो. दो अप्रोच है, इतना मैं बता सकता हूँ.
अच्छा, थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा.
सोचो सोचो. ये ऐसे क्वेश्चन इंटरव्यू में पूछते हैं. इंटरव्यू क्या है? They even ask in competitive coding or contests. This is one of the easier questions. ज़्यादा हार्ड भी नहीं है, ज़्यादा इजी भी नहीं है, एकदम भी इजी भी नहीं है. Like somewhere in between easy and medium difficulty. You can even use recursion in this. पता चला अप्रोच किसी को? अक्षत? Anyone? Okay, so मैं बता देता हूँ. Basically, there are two approaches. First one is the brute force approach. So I just create a function, pass the variable n, then I'll take a variable sum. I added underscore because sum is actually a keyword in Python. So now I'll run loop until n is greater than 0 or sum is greater than 9. And if n is 0, just do n equals to sum equals to 0. Not to sum plus equal to, these are shorthand operators in Python, n modulo 10. So I do n modulo 10. So what it will do, it will just take the first digit of the number and just add that to the sum. Then I'll do sum divide equal to 10. So it will just eliminate the first digit after it has been added. Then finally, I'm returning sum. And if I call this so now, as you can see, this is the brute force approach. It is not optimized or elegant, and the complexity will be the length of the digit, the length of the initial number, as you can see. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking a variable sum, and I'm creating a loop until either the sum is 0, either the number is greater than 0 or the sum is greater than 9. Okay, and now if the number is itself 0, then we are just putting sum equals to 0, which is basically same thing. Then what we are doing is taking the sum plus n equal to n modulo 10. So what it will do, it will just take the first digit and it will just add to sum. Now then we are doing integer division by 10. So it will remove the first, it will remove the digit which has been added, okay, from the rest of the number. And then we are just iterating over this until again. So if I'm doing, if my input is 156, then for that this condition is ignored. So it will just do n modulo 10. So it will give 6. it will add 6 to the sum, and then n is still 156. So if I do integer division by 10, it will give 15. Then again, n is greater than 0, and so on until we get 12. N equals to sum equals to 12, like that. Now our n has become 0 because we have done last n integer division 10 after 1 is left. So n will become 0 after that. So now what we are doing, we want to do the same operation on sum. So we are just reinitializing the sum to 0, and then we are assigning sum to n. Now n is 12, and again sum n modulo 10. So 2 is added to sum, which now sum becomes 2. Then integer division 10. So now n is equals to 1, and then uh, this is called sum. Then again, yeah, this is called, so sum 1 is added to sum, so now sum becomes 3. Now finally, the value is the loop is exited, and then because n greater than 0, sorry, n becomes equal to 0. So now the loop is exited. Now the sum is returned. So the sum is final 3. So this is one solution. The other solution is actually even more simple and less complicated. If you have studied in the subject, the complexity. So this is actually depends on. Yeah, this is actually complex. It should be somewhere between n and n log n, I think. And for this final solution, this is very simple. This is just the O1. So you'll get the answer very fast. So you have to just write 3 statements only. And that's if n is 0, then return 0. If n modulo 9 is equal to 0, then return 9. So the logic behind this is if the number is divisible by 9, which is modulo, you just check for modulo equal to 0. So if the number is divisible by 9, then in this the sum of digits will always return the answer 9. Okay. So if you have seen 9 ka table, so if you do sum of digits, then the sum is always 9. So any number generated, that is always 9. And the last condition, we just return in modulo 9. So this last one is in case the number is not divisible by 9. So the numbers can be expressed in the form of 9x plus k. Okay. So if a number is divisible by 9, then k will be 0. Sorry. Yeah. So k will be 0. So in that case, the number is of the form 9x. So it's either of these two forms, and the number is not divisible by 9. So if you do modulo, the sum of the digits is actually always as k, which is basically same as the modulo divisible modulo by 9. So if I do this 156, and if I call the second method, you can see the answer is same and unchanged. So this was the second approach. So this was a little bit taste of how questions in interview are asked. And I think now lunch session has started. Kriti ma'am?
Yes. So students, you can leave this meeting and you are requested to join this meeting by sharp 12:50. So Samaksh and Dhruvik, we will meet again at sharp 12:50. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.